so spring-like and
thank you.
That's a little Syracuse ensemble.
No, not Syracuse. Virginia. Wahoo Wow. We're #1 in men's basketball. Get it straight.
Y'all
winning it. Get it straight.
Y'all winning it this year?
Listen, I'll be happy with a Final Four appearance for now. But, you know, listen, we're #1. Duke lost last night at Virginia Tech, so all is right in my world.
Nice.
I thought it was the Broncos, that's where you want Kirk Cousins going.
Nah, come on, man. You know better than that.
I thought it was the Mets, so I was way off. Speaking of Kirk Cousins, Chris Canty, let's talk about the Vikings. According to reports, the team decided not to franchise Case Keenum despite him taking them to the NFC Championship. Vikings now have a decision to make: sign one of their 130 quarterbacks they have on staff, or maybe go after Kirk Cousins. Cousins has also been linked to said Broncos, the Jets, the Browns, but now there's reportedly mutual interest with Minnesota. So, Chris, what do you think? Would the Vikings be the perfect fit for Kirk Cousins, based on the team they have and what they know they would get out of a guy like Cousins?
Well, I think Kirk Cousins would be an upgrade at the quarterback position, and not to take a shot at Case Keenum and what he did last season. He played very well. I think from a physical tools perspective, Kirk Cousins is a better football player. You know, with Kirk Cousins, he's going to give you 4,000+ yards passing. He's going to give you 25+ touchdowns. He's going to have a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's going to be a solid football player, and he's somebody that you can trust if you give a big contract to. So when I look at where the Minnesota Vikings are in terms of their team and trying to make a push and win a championship, I think they've got a window of about 2 or 3 seasons that they got to capitalize on. And, Nick, I know we have a difference of opinion with this, because they got some contracts on the defensive side of the ball they're going to have to address. Anthony Barr is on a 5th-year option. Sharif Floyd, he was out this season, but somebody that they would like to keep around. But to me, that just means that you would try to get Kirk Cousins because you would have more urgency, because you understand you have a finite window to win a championship.
Well, so that is the key point. The key point is, if you go after Kirk Cousins, if you sign Kirk Cousins, it's not your championship window is only this year, but that means you are going for it in 2018, not really worried about the future. Because it's not just those guys. Here are, of their front 7, guys that are free agents after this coming season: Sharif Floyd, Brian Robeson, Danielle Hunter, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. Those are 4 really outstanding players and 1 really good player. Though all of those guys, if you sign Kirk Cousins, you'll be lucky if you can bring back 2 of those 5. That's not to mention another free agent after this year is Stephon Diggs, your 2nd-best wide receiver. So the Vikings are in a cap position where they could absolutely sign Kirk Cousins for this year. But what it means for them moving forward, and for a team that, to me, illustrated they don't have to have a $30 million quarterback to win games. They've won games with Teddy Bridgewater. They've won games with Sam Bradford. They've won games with Case Keenum. I don't know if that is where I would allocate my resources. Now, if we were talking about Drew Brees, who's a free agent quarterback, but we all know he's staying in New Orleans, I would feel differently, because he's such a difference maker. I don't think the upgrade from whichever of those 3 quarterbacks becomes your starter and Kirk Cousins is as significant as the pay discrepancy would be, and that's why this is a move that, while it would make the Vikings, to me, the favorites in 2018, I don't know that I'd make it.
I thought you made some great points, and that's true, but like you said, and you said in your last sentence, they would be the favorites in 2018. You have to go for it. This is the NFL.
Yep.
Outside of New England, Pittsburgh, a few other places, the contenders are shifting every year. And so if you're Minnesota and you have a chance now, you don't know what the future is going to bring, even with those free agents. You have to go for it. And you're right. Kirk Cousins, is he top 5 like Drew Brees? No. But I think he's significantly better than Case Keenum or Teddy Bridgewater. The seasons that they both had, when Bridgewater was healthy and Keenum last year, that made everybody raise up and say, wow, they're going to be great, and Minnesota got excited. They're not close to what Cousins gives you every year that he's been a starter. So, and in Minnesota with Diggs, with Thielen, with that running game, Dalvin Cook is coming back. I don't think it's out of the question that he could throw for close to 5,000 yards.
No, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility either. I think you can see a jump in production for Kirk Cousins and what he does on the field. But, Nick, you said something. You said you don't think that Kirk Cousins is that much of an upgrade in talent at the quarterback position than Case Keenum. But I think the Minnesota Vikings brass, Rick Spielman and their coaching staff, Mike Zimmer and company, would disagree with that. They're telling you that we don't believe that Case Keenum is worth $23 million on a franchise tag.
Oh, I don't think he is either.
Okay, so we understand the market for Case Keenum is going to be below that number, but we also know that the market for Kirk Cousins is going to be upwards of $30 million a year in an average annual value.
Agreed. But to me, I think this year was a good example that we've seen in recent NFL history and the last few years, this year in particular. There's two paths to having a true Super Bowl contending team. One is the no doubt Hall of Fame quarterback. The Packers with Aaron Rodgers every year, no matter who's around him. Brady every year. We saw Breeze get back to it this year. There's that path. Then there's the amazing 52 guys and just make it do with the quarterback. That, by the way, is what Philly had come the playoffs. That's what Jacksonville...
That's not fair, Nick. That's not fair.
No, what Philly had come the playoffs.
Yeah.
Come the playoffs.
Foles had to be spectacular for them to win it. If he wasn't spectacular, they're not winning.
Just look at the final four teams, though. It's certainly what Minnesota had. It's certainly what Jacksonville had. A great team around in Jacksonville's case, I don't even think this, a capable quarterback. What we haven't seen, though, is what I think is what will be the Kirk Cousins model. What is the Matt Stafford model? What is the Joe Flacco model? Which is the mid-tier quarterback paid like the Hall of Fame quarterback. That team get to the Super Bowl. That team win a Super Bowl. And if you say Flacco won it, that was before he was paid like the Hall of Fame quarterback. I haven't seen that.
I totally agree with you. I think we have completely bought into the Kirk Cousins hype. Nobody was talking about Kirk. He had great numbers. Nobody was talking about Kirk Cousins as a game changer, as what our guy Eric Mangini says, a force multiplier, a quarterback you put in there, he makes everyone around him better. He's the biggest hyped, biggest name on the free agent market right now, and I think teams are bending over backwards thinking we have to have him because he's the missing piece. I don't think anybody would have thought that before this all came up, that it's got to be Kirk Cousins. Like, he's the guy that's going to make a difference. Look what Minnesota did with a guy like Case Keenum. They had a great team in place. CeCe talks about the system that they had in place. They plugged in a guy who could have been Sam Bradford if he stayed healthy, probably could have been Teddy Bridgewater if he stayed healthy, and look how far they were able to go.
Yeah, but they didn't accomplish the ultimate goal. Right. They were 60 minutes away from getting to a Super Bowl, and no team just wants to get there. They want to win it. And so when you start looking at a quarterback like Kirk Cousins...
Wait a minute. You don't consider what Case Keenum did for the Vikings last year completely, absolutely successful season?
I think the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff in their front office are telling us Case Keenum got there in large part because of the supporting cast, not necessarily just because of his play. And I'm not saying that he wasn't good, but can he replicate that? You can't ignore the first 5 years of his career. And so I think there's a little bit of a hesitancy to commit that kind of money to Case Keenum. Kirk Cousins is clearly an upgrade at the position. In his 3 full years as a starter with the Washington Redskins, he's 24, 23, and 1. He's won a division title in the NFC East. So when you start talking about being able to compete for a championship, I think Kirk Cousins can make the plays that you need your quarterback to from the pocket and get your team to the big game.
There's no question Cousins is an upgrade, at least to me, no question, on Case Keenum. And there's no question either to me that they're right in not giving Case Keenum $23 million a year. If you ask me, would I rather have Cousins for 30 or Keenum for 23, I'd rather have Cousins for 30. But would I rather have Teddy Bridgewater still on his rookie contract? Would I rather have Keenum at $8 million a year? Would I rather be able to hold on to my salary cap space when I've seen that I can get to this close, or I can get to the Final Four, I should say, with that team around him? That's what I'm saying. It's not that I think that these guys are better than Kirk. It's that I know that some people don't care about the salary cap as much as I do. It's a hard cap sport. And a dollar spent here is dollar you can't spend here. And when you look at Stephon Diggs, Sharif Floyd, Donnell Hunter, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, all coming up on free agency, you're going to figure out what Vikings team are we actually going to have a couple years from now if you give Kirk Cousins that money.
Can't believe the season ends and I'm still the only one on the Case Keenum bandwagon. Literally.
It's unbelievable.
Chris Canty, stick around. Coming up, will the Cowboys make dads take a pay cut? Next on First Things First.
Maybe he'll sign with the Jets.